Okay.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Goti Janavaka Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Ballava Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Munatira Banachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Rama
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Bol Nitai Gaur Hare Bol Hare Bol Nitai Gaur Hare Bol
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Gandharvika Giridhari, Radhika Raman, Radhika Krishna Vanamali Giriju Ki Jai Ho. Om Agana Timarandasya, Jananjana Salakaya, Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Maha Vandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaur Tavashe Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, my everything, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, our Srila Prabhupada. Second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to our entire Guru Parampara and all the Rupanuga Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and especially to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Madhurya Kadambini. Also today, I wanted to mention that we began a very special month-long vrat. We started here in Vrindavan, for some of us on Fridays, some on Saturdays. It's called Keśava vrat. And it's very, very ancient, and it's very important, actually. And we worship especially Tulsi Devī and Shalagram on this day, for this month, excuse me. And most of the Gaudiya Mats, I'm not sure about ISKCON, I can't remember, because it's a worship of Shalagram and Tulsi, they have a clay pot. And they decorate the clay pot and they hang it from something. And there's a little hole in the bottom of the clay pot, and there's a piece of straw coming out, so that and the pot is full of water. And Tulsi is placed under this pot, and so there's a drip, constant drip, slow, but constant small drip of water coming down for the whole month, watering Tulsi. And most of the Gaudiya Mats put a Shalagram there also. So the water is watering both Shalagram and Tulsi, like this. Now the thing is, it's been advised that because India is hot and dry, there is no problem. But it's not advised if you're in a country which doesn't have that climate, because it might be too much water for Tulsi, like this. So you have to adjust it according to time, place, and circumstance, like that. So, so also, along with the water dripping, most devotees, they do special worship. If they're not doing it all year long, at least for this month, they worship Tulsi Devi by offering puja with incense, lamp, flowers, like this. And also, they sing the Vrindavana-vilasini to her. Like in most Gaudiya Mats, here in Gopinath Bhavan, Seva Ashram, we're singing the Vrindavana-vilasini right after Mangalarti. We sing it for this whole month. And in the temple, that's the only time we sing it. Myself, I sing it every day, but yeah, like this. And also, many devotees, they also sing or chant the Sri Keśava Stikam by Srila Rupa Goswami. It's actually in his Stavamala. It's one of the astakams in his Stavamala. And it's very, very beautiful. It describes Sri Keśava, Krishna, Vraj Krishna, when he's coming home in the afternoon. So therefore this astakam is usually chanted in the afternoon, like between 3:30 and 6. But you can chant it anytime you want, but this is when he's being described in the astakam. And it's described in 8 verses, and then there's a benediction verse, 9, at the end. And it describes him so beautifully. He's coming home with his cowherd boyfriends, right? And they're all dressed so colorfully and with and pigments on their faces coming from Govardhan. And they're just coming home. And it's described that they're coming so joyously, almost like victors. You know, they're victorious. They just, whatever, conquered whatever. And they're just marching home, and they're coming home from the forest to the village of Braj. And they're laughing and joking, and all of his friends are full of so much affection for him. And so he's just making them laugh with his cleverness, and they're coming along. And it says that he has, his earrings are made from kadamba buds, kadamba flower buds. His crown is made from, I think, jasmine flowers. And he has some other Brahmin's thread made from some other kind of, I think, jasmine flowers. So he's looking very beautiful. And on his flute, he's playing the flute with his, beautiful expressions. And what is he doing? He's calling his cows, all the groups of cows, Pisangi, Shamali, Mridangamukhi, and they're all the heads of groups. And so the cows are coming. And also some of the cows, because they're very anxious, they've been gone all day, and their calves are at home, tied at home in the Goshala, right? So they're very anxious to see their calves. So they're running and they're digging up the ground with their pointed hooves. So Krishna calls them back. Okay, come back, and we'll get there. And so come and join us. And also it says that there's a little bit of perspiration coming down onto his, and it says this perspiration is like licking his cheeks like this, and his curly hair is like a swarm of bumblebees, like this. So he's so beautiful, they're so beautiful. And also when he's playing and it says that the gentle breeze is blowing his chadar and his peacock feather, and the dust from the cow's hooves is coming and making his garland gray and brownish, but it looks more beautiful. And his feet are marking the ground with his footprints, which have the symbols of the conch and so many symbols. He's beautifying the path. But also, he's playing his flute. So what happens, at home in the village of Braj, the elderly ladies, they can hear this sound, especially Mother Yashoda. And they become so joyous, like a festival for them, and their hair stand on end, and they become so happy and like this. But the most special is that, of course, as he's coming home from the forest to Braj, he passes near the gopis, right? Near Javat, right? They're waiting. So when the gopis hear the sound of his flute, they run into the path, or they go up on their roofs, and they greet Krishna with all kinds of garlands of what? Sidelong glances and gentle smiles, indicating their amorous love for him, right? And how does he reciprocate with them? His eyes are described like bumblebees hovering amidst a cluster of blossoming flowers, meaning his eyes are going to their breasts, and it's just going round and round and round and round. And they're covered with beautiful blouses. It's called kanchulis, or what do you call them? Cholis, right? This. And they're all different colors, so it's like a cluster of different beautiful flowers that are blossoming. And so this is Keśava coming home. And it says that if we read this or recite this verse very faithfully and very intently, then Krishna himself will give us all spiritual intelligence to be able to come to him and attain bhav for him and praying for him like this. And this astakam is also described, if you are reciting it for the pleasures of the gopis, it's a festival for the gopis. So if we're reciting it for the pleasure of the gopis, they become very happy. They like to hear this astakam about Krishna like this. So it's nice if you don't have it, it's not in our songbook, but it's in the Stavamala, or I'm sure you can find it online. Sri Keśavastikam by Srila Rupa Goswami. Very beautiful. So for one whole month, we have a chance to do special worships. It's called Keśava vrat. Okay? Let's see if we can do something. And also the glories of Tulsi, as we know. Tulsi, she gives Krishna bhakti. And there's so unlimited glories to her. One of them I was just reading, if you take some of the dust or the dirt from the root of Tulsi and you put it on your forehead like this, put it on your forehead, this very worship of putting this dust from Tulsi on your forehead, it removes the obstacles in your life and it makes your planets and your stars all favorable. Just by taking the dust from Tulsi's roots. It's one of the many things like this. So, and if we water Tulsi, we gaze upon Tulsi, we plant Tulsi, any way we worship her by the 9 processes of bhakti, then we will attain Krishna Loka. And if we don't attain right away, we'll at least attain residence in the Dham, so we can proceed in our bhakti and perfect our bhakti, so that we will be able to go back home, back to Godhead as soon as possible. She is so favorable, Tulsi Devi. And she's a manifestation, as we know, of Vrindasaki. Vrindasaki is, she's Krishna Pakshya. She's more favorable actually to Krishna. She loves Radharani, but she's a little on Krishna's side. Whereas, you know, Lalita and Vishaka, they're on Radharani. They're Radhika Snehadika, and Vrinda's Krishna Snehadika, and some are neutral, both. But the Manjaris are totally Radhika Snehadika, like this. And Vrinda is Krishna has to have a few on his side, you know, come on, you know. He has Kundalata and Nandimukhi, and he has to have a few over there. Gets a little out of balance, you know. So anyhow, if we know from the Vrinda Devi Astakam, most of our acharyas, there's one particular verse that they chant when they're doing their Mangala Charanam. That's Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Larcha. That means she eradicates, she takes away our offenses. And if our offenses are eradicated, which is what we're talking about in the Madhurya Kadambini, then we can go much more quickly and much smoothly in our bhakti. Of course, there's other verses, the one where she actually gives us residence in Vrindavan, service to Radha and Krishna, and actually entrance into Ras Leela. So that, and if you were to read Rupa Goswami's Utkalika Valari, when he's first giving he first offers his what do you call it? Not obeisances, but he first approaches Vrindavan, you might say, Vrindavan Dham herself. And he asks Vrindavan to bless him. He's asking for blessings. So first he approaches Vrindavan Dham. Second he approaches Vrinda Devi. Vrinda Devi like this. Then he approaches Lalita, Vishaka, Subha like this. But first Vrinda Devi. First Vrindavan, then Vrinda Devi. She is Vrindavaneshwari in one sense. Of course Vrindavaneshwari is Srimati Radhika, but also Vrinda Devi is she is the Leela Shakti for the Kunja Leela, for Madhurya Leela. Yogamaya Purnamasi is Samasti Yogamaya, Samasti Leela Shakti for all the Leelas. But Vrinda Devi is the Leela Shakti for Kunja Leela, for Madhurya Leela, like this. Purnamasi cannot be there like the same. Like in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, what happens is she isn't in the pastimes like at Nandagram, Varshana, but she's out in the kunjas of Vrindavan, preparing for Jugal Kishore to come and meet. Like for the Majjan Leela, when they're at Radha Kunj, Shama Kunj, she's there decorating the kunjas, making sure all the paraphernalia is there. Or she's on the banks of the Jamuna preparing for the Ras Leela. Or even in the morning, when Radha and Krishna meet briefly at Gupta Kund, which is right, it's hidden, Gupta means hidden, right near Vrinda Kund. She's there decorating the kunjas so that they can have their pastimes. She's always decorating and preparing for Kunja Leela like this. So, and this is our ultimate destination, the lotus feet of Rupa Manjari, whose most intimate and confidential seva, of course, is in the Kunja seva, like this. And that's our goal one day, is to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Manjari, like this. So Vrinda Devi can help us a lot. So it's nice if we, and also if we especially sing to Vrinda Devi, to Tulsi Devi, not just her astakam, but what does she want to hear? she particularly likes to hear the glorification of Radharani and of Krishna. So you can sing for her as you're circumambulating Munindra Vrindavana-vilasini Triloka, like this, Namami Nandan, or you can sing Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava, or Krishna Deva Vavanta, like this. Sing for her happiness, for her pleasure. You'll see, if you have Tulsi, she will just blossom. She'll be so happy with you. That's the service that any pure devotee likes the most, is kirtan. So if you can't do anything else, just offer kirtan. Offer a little water, a little flour, but offer kirtan. Then she will definitely bestow her mercy, Krishna Bhakti, like this. Residence in the Dham, service, eventually, entrance into Ras Leela. So let's take advantage, and she gives special mercy during the month of Keśava. Okay, so back to our Madhurya Kadambini, which is the eradication of Anarthas. We're in the third shower, which is Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, but especially third shower is Anartha Nivritti. So we've heard about the Anarthas, right? Which is the Anarthas coming from pious activities, the Anarthas coming from impious activities, the Anarthas coming from aparad, the Anarthas coming from improper practice of bhakti, which we spoke about last week, is very, very severe also. It's, this is these parasitic creepers that just suck out our strength from the bhakti lata. So, but now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is moving on. He's moving on and explaining what are the 5 stages in which all anarthas are eradicated. There's 5 stages. And the first stage begins in Bhajan Kriya and Anartha Nivritti. And that's called, let's see if I can get it right. It's called partial. And it's called Ekadas Vartini. Ekadas Vartini. And this partial is likened to if you have a rupee and you take 1/16 or 2/16 from a rupee, that's like practically nothing. That's what this partial eradication is. So it's not so much. And the eradication of the different anarthas goes at different rates. Today we're talking about the eradication from the anarthas coming from aparad. But those coming from pious, impious, and improperly practiced bhakti, they are eradicated at different levels. They actually go quicker. The anarthas coming from aparad is the most slow to be eradicated, to be eliminated. Okay? So for aparads, when you're in bhajana kriya, it's very little is coming. Some is coming. And when you get to nishta, then it's called extensive, which is bahudasa vartini. But this, for anartha nivritti, for aparads, not for the other ones, but for aparad, this extensive, that's likened to if you have, you take a bit more from the rupee. How much is it? I think it was a 12th or something. Yeah. No, you had a 12th. Yeah, so you're getting a little bit more taken away. But this is in Nishta, Ruchi, and Ashakti. It's the same. In the other ones, it goes very quickly. But then in Bhav, or Rati, then it's called almost complete. And that's like 98%. Okay? And then in Prem, when you're just beginning Prem, it's 100%. It's called complete, Purna. Oh, the almost complete is Prayiki, and the complete is Purna. But it's not absolute. This is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And we'll talk about this today. It's only absolute, like complete, absolute annihilation of this anartha when you actually meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. You get His darshan, you get His mercy, the mercy of Bhakti Devi, and you become His personal associate. Up until that time, it's been explained that it's highly unlikely, but it is possible when you're just starting in Prem or even in Bhav, to actually commit an offense to a pure devotee. It is possible. And we have some examples that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives. So we should take this very seriously. Because the indicator of how much offense you've committed to the pure devotee is what happens to your bhakti. If even in Bhav or in the beginning of prayer, if you commit an offense to a pure devotee and it's a severe offense, you lose your bhakti. If it's a medium offense, your bhakti becomes, your bhav becomes bhavabhas. And if it's a slight offense, it becomes a lower bhav. So this is how we can understand if we've committed an offense or not, what's happening with our bhav. If we lusted, if it's becoming like this. Now there'll be an example is given of there was one gorilla named Devī. He's mentioned in the Krishna book. Now this is a very interesting pastime. Devī gorilla we first hear about him in the Leela of Ram. He's actually an associate of Ram. And the thing is that even though you're serving Ram, somehow or other, I can't remember, I don't know the Ramayana so well, he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Lakshman. And because of that, later we find out in the Krishna book that he becomes a friend of Narakasura, who's a big demon, which is interesting because he's a son of Varaha, I think. Yeah, he's a son of the earth planet Priti, but anyhow, he has bad associations, so Narakasura becomes a demon, and Devī becomes his friend. Devī becomes the friend of this Narakasura. He becomes a demon, and Anarthas come in his heart, and when, I think it's Krishna, kills Narakasura, anyhow, when Narakasura gets killed, Devī becomes very, very angry. And this is when, in the Krishna book, this whole pastime, he starts passing stool everywhere and ripping up this and causing havoc everywhere. And it's near Dwarka. It's a Raivataka mountain. He's there. And Balaram has gone to this Raivataka mountain with some ladies, and they're having their Rasa Leela there. And so Devī is there, and he becomes envious, and he starts making all kinds of horrible noises and uprooting this, and he's just disturbing the Rasa Leela. So Balaram kills him. He gets killed like this. He offended Lakshman. He was an associate of Ram. Now, one thing that is explained in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarartha-darshini Tika to this story of Devī is that actually Devī and he had a brother named Minda are like Jai and Vijay. It's due to the desire of the Lord, because he wanted to show what happens if you offend a pure devotee. And so he caused Devī and Minda to enact this pastime of offending Lakshman, and then doing all these horrible things. So this is to show what comes when we offend. Even if we're associated with the Lord, we cannot offend the pure devotees. If so, this is what will happen. He got killed eventually by Balaram. Of course, Balaram is Lakshman, right? Like this. But it was by the desire of the Lord. This is like, you might say, Maharaj Parikshit, when he put the dead snake around the sage's neck. How could Maharaj Parikshit do something like this? But this is the will of the Lord. It happens. It's a teaching for us. We have to be very, very careful. And Maharaj Parikshit felt bad about it. He felt so bad. How could I do this? And of course it was so the Bhagavatam could descend. So this pastime of Devī, the gorilla, offending Lakshman, is to show us that even he was so high, somehow or other he offended Lakshman, and look what happened to him. So it's not until we get the complete mercy of this Bhagavan and of Bhakti, and we're accepted into the Leela, and then everything is completely taken away. All the results of the aparad. It's quite an amazing understanding of Bhakti. Bhakti is independent, and she does not like anyone to offend the pure devotees or Bhagavan like this. So we have to be very, very careful. And then, and what else it's showing is that it's not impossible for a devotee in bhav to commit offense. We see even when we were studying the story of Maharaj Bharat, he didn't commit offense, but he was neglectful of his bhakti, and so he had to take birth as a deer. So even in the level of bhav, we have to be so careful. What to speak of beginning in prem? Because in prem, until you get direct darshan, and you're accepted as a direct associate. So I guess Dvita may have been an associate of Ram, but not so intimate. No, actually what it is this is the will of the Lord. It's a pastime, like Jai and Vijay, like this. They're used, isn't it, like Maharaj Pariksit and the sage, like this. Anyhow, now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he goes on to give another example, and this is so deep, I'm not sure if I can do it justice. But he goes on to tell the story of Maharaj Chitraketu. And the topic that he's bringing up is that the offense that Maharaj Chitraketu made to Lord Shiva is not really an offense. It only appears to be offense, like this. And he gives the reason why is because he has two distinct features. He's Maharaj Chitraketu, and he becomes a demon Vritasura. Two distinct features of his. But, and we'll go through his whole history, he actually attained the darshan of the Lord, the complete mercy of the Lord, and he had his prem was of topmost level. So as Maharaj Chitraketu, when he actually attained prem, and as Vritasura, his prem never disappeared, never went down, never. So that's the proof that there was no offense. Like this. The proof is if his prem was completely the same, topmost prem. So the story of Maharaj Chitraketu, as we know, and is a large part of the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so many chapters on this. So it's obviously very important. So Maharaj Chitraketu was a big king. I mean, really big, opulent. He had, 10 million? How many was it that he had? He had, 10 million wives. Can you imagine? He was the king of Surasena. And the reason why is because he had no son. He wanted a son. And even after having 10 million beautiful women as his wives, he had no son. This is all a pastime of the Lord, right? So finally, he's just weeping, and this Angira Rishi comes by. He's a great Rishi. And so Maharaj Chitraketu, he starts lamenting and telling him his sadness, Angira Rishi, and he's just begging him for help. So Angira Rishi finally says, okay. So he gets some sweet rice. No, how's it? I don't know these things very well. He says, okay, I'll help you. And so he does something, and the sweet rice comes from the sacrificial fire, especially blessed sweet rice. I don't know enough about sacrifice. Anyhow, I forget. Maybe he says some mantras or something. So he gets a special sweet rice, and he gives this sweet rice to the first queen, the major queen of Maharaj Chitraketu. Her name is Kritadyuti. I don't know if I say it right. Kritadyuti. And he gives her this sweet rice, and he says, take this, you will have a son that will bring both happiness and distress to Maharaj Chitraketu. So she takes the sweet rice, she becomes pregnant, has a baby, beautiful baby. The baby's growing and growing and growing. But when he's 5 years old, I think it's 5 years, Maharaj Chitraketu gets to enjoy having a beautiful son. And then what happens? It's the material world, isn't it? The other wives become very envious because he's giving all of his attention and affection to this Krita Dyuti, the wife that had the son. And they're just being neglected. So they get very envious. And what do? Can you imagine? They take poison and they kill the son. The son is dead. And when Maharaj Chitraketu hears this, he is completely devastated. So the son brought him happiness, distress. This is what Angira Rishi predicted. He's just devastated, right? So who comes along? Angira Rishi comes along bringing Sri Narada Muni. And Narada Muni starts preaching to the king. But the king is in so much illusion and so much depressed, so much limitation, he really cannot hear. So then finally, what do? They bring the soul of the dead son back. And the soul of the dead son starts preaching to his father the illusions of the material world and the illusions of the son-father relationship, of all relationships, the illusory nature, the grief that the material world, attachment in the material world will bring. So finally Maharaj Chitraketu, he starts to become detached. He takes shelter especially of Narada Muni as his guru. He starts to do bhajan properly under the shelter of Narada Muni. And so what happens? He actually meets Lord Sankarshan directly. This is all in the Bhagavatam. He meets directly Lord Sankarshan, gets his mercy, gets the blessings of Lord Sankarshan. Like this. So he has attained this darshan, this direct mercy. And so then he becomes a direct associate, and he's given, I guess by Lord Sankarshan, didn't say, a divine airplane, and he's flying around in this airplane, and he becomes the leader of the Vidyadharas. They're a special kind of a celestial being who are followers of Lord Shiva. So he's riding around in his airplane, and he comes upon, you might say his godbrother, the great Lord Shiva. And actually, he has no disrespect for Lord Shiva. He doesn't. He actually admires him. He's so, but because it's explained in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Tika to the Bhagavatam, that actually Lord Sankarshan wanted him to come back home, back to Godhead as soon as possible, he makes this pastime happen. It's another pastime like Parikshit Maharaj, like Dwi Dvita. By the desire of the Lord, the pastime develops. So he's riding around, and when he comes upon Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva's with all these great sages and saints and charnas, and he's giving, his Harikatha. But what is happening? He has Parvati on his lap, and he's embracing her. So, by the will of the Lord, to teach us many, if you read the Bhagavatam, and there's so many teachings within this, he starts not offending. This is the difference between Chitraketu and Daksha. Daksha was offensive because he thought Shiva was an ordinary person. But Chitraketu understands he's the topmost. He understands, but somehow he starts, in a joking way, criticizing Lord Shiva. And he says, here's this great instructor of Dharma, great Mahadev. And he has his wife on his lap, and he's embracing her. Now, it's explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Another thing is that part of why he was doing this was because he knew that ordinary persons would criticize Lord Shiva, and he didn't want Lord Shiva to be criticized. That's one reason. So he wanted Shiva to stop doing that so that they wouldn't criticize him. But also it was partly a joke. Whatever it was ordained by the Supreme Lord. And so what happens is Lord Shiva, understanding who he is, he doesn't say anything, doesn't take any offense. He just remains quiet and smiling. And he also understands the will of the Lord. But his wife, Parvati, she becomes very angry that he's offended, he's disrespected, and so she curses Chitraketu to take birth in a very low family, so he'll never be able to offend great devotees again because he'll never see them like this. Now, Chitraketu Maharaj, he is not disturbed in the slightest. And he has the power to counteract the curse. He could have cursed Parvati. He's so powerful. But he doesn't. He accepts the curse. He even glorifies Parvati. He even pays his obeisances. And he goes on his way. Happy. No problem. And what happens? He becomes the son of Twasta Rishi, a great demon, Vritrasura, in his next life. He takes another birth. A humongous, enormous demon, ugly like anything, but so strong. And he's meant to fight in the war between the demigods and the demons. And he's on the side of the demons, of course. And who's on the other side? Indra and the demigods. And Indra has this amazing weapon made from the bones of Dadichi. And this weapon is invincible, so he's supposed to kill Vritrasura by this weapon. So he comes on his elephant, Indra, to the battle, and Vritrasura is there, and for some amazing reason, Indra's got his weapon, and what does he do? He drops it. He just drops it. And Vritrasura catches it. But Vritrasura is such a follower of Dharma that he takes the weapon and he gives it back to Indra and he says, here, kill me with this. I am not afraid of time. I'm not afraid of death. Why? Because the Supreme Lord is right in front of me. And it says in the book, even as Shama Sundar, of course he's a devotee of Shankarshan, but anyhow, and that I'm so happy to be able to die in front of the Supreme Lord Bhagavan. This is fine. No problem. And at that point, and I'm sorry I haven't memorized them, Vritrasura starts praying some very, very famous prayers in the Bhagavatam. And these prayers and this pastime are considered some of the uppermost, topmost parts of the Bhagavatam by other Puranas and by the great sages. These prayers are so special, some of the most special teachings. And Srila Gurudeva said it's even the first hint of Madhurya Ras, maybe even a hint of Parakya Ras, first hint. So I'm not going to read the Sanskrit, but these are very, very important prayers. This is the mood. This demon, Vritrasura, when you hear his prayers, what his mood is. Topmost, prem, bhav, ready to, whatever Krishna wants, whatever Bhagavan wants. This is 6th canto, 11th chapter, verses 24 to 27. And he says, O Lord, please bestow such mercy upon me that in my next birth I may obtain the opportunity to exclusively serve the servants who have taken shelter of your lotus feet. So he prays to be the servant of the servant. O beloved of my life, he calls him Pran Balab. This is a Madhurya Ras name. This is not, Jagannath or, no. This is Pran Balav. He says, Pran Balav. May my mind always remember your all auspicious qualities. My speech always describe the glories of these qualities, and my body always remain engaged in your service. This is this big demon. This is what he's praying. And he's having darshan of Bhagavan. O source of all good fortune, I do not desire the heavenly planets, the realm of Brahma, or rulership over the earth or lower planetary systems. Nor do I desire any mystic perfection. I do not even want liberation if it means I would have to give you up. O lotus-eyed one, my heart is this is the verse that is the most important. O lotus-eyed one, Ajata Paksha, Aravindaksha. My heart, he's talking about his heart, and he gives 3 examples of how restless his heart is to attain Bhagavan, Krishna. My heart is restless to have darshan of you, just like a featherless chick, a little baby chick, eagerly looks out for his mother when it's hungry. So I can't wait for the mother to come. But even more then, he goes deeper. As hungry calves are anxious to drink the milk of their mothers, and this is the topmost one. Or as a lover separated from her beloved because he's in a foreign land longs to meet him. And the words are priyam priyeva. So this is where it's pointed to Madhurya Ras. And then the last verse. Mamotsamas. Oh, well. Lord, I do know liberation. I am not concerned if I have to repeatedly wander throughout the vicious cycle of birth and death as a result of my actions, but wherever I go, in whichever species I may take birth, please grant me the loving friendship of your dear devotees. Master, I only wish that I may never have any relationship with those who are bewildered by your illusory potency and attached to house, body, wife, and sons. Incredible. It's being spoken by the demon, Vritrasura. So this here is Bhav. His prema never diminished in this body, even though he'd been cursed by Parvati. No, never. Because it's the pastime of the Lord. If you read the Svarta Darshini Tika to the 6th canto, after, it's interesting, in the battle between Indra and Vritrasura, there's a point where somehow or other Vritrasura swallows Indra and his elephant carrier. He swallows them, they go into his abdomen. And so this is what's explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that at that point, Vritrasura thinks, oh, I've killed Indra. So, okay, I've killed him, everything's finished, now I can go back home, back to Godhead. So he goes into samadhi. And his body is like in samadhi. So at that point, what happens is Indra can pierce his abdomen, he gets out. He gets out, and it's at that point that he starts chopping off the head of Vritrasura. But with this weapon, you know, this invincible weapon made from the bones of Dadichi Muni, how long does it take him to chop his head off? 360 days. That's a year practically, because he's in samadhi, you know. He's actually already left. He's already gone back home. It's just the dead body of Vritrasura, you see? And so this Chitraketu, the soul there, he goes back and it says that he goes to the Vaikuntha Loka where Lord Shankarshan is. Like this. So amazing, amazing. What a pastime. And so it's explained this is a very, very important. And look at all the teachings you have here. He's also used what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says when he criticized Lord Shiva. That's also to show you never criticize, even in joke. No, you never criticize a pure devotee. Never, never. Even in joke, we don't. Even if it's your god brother, you don't do that. Just see what will happen to you. You see like this? Yeah? So many teachings here. But the proof of the pudding is, you might say, he was a great, great devotee. And he had the special mercy of Lord Shankarshan. So in all this, still, we have to be very careful, right? Very, very careful. So, let's see here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that these words of Vritrasura, he calls it proves or reveals his immaculate praying for Bhagavan. It could not be, because this is praying. Nothing material can actually hinder or affect. If you have this immaculate, topmost praying, nothing material, nothing. And even for us sadhaks, if we have unflinching faith in Guru and in Krishna, nothing material can also harm or block us. Not possible. It may appear that way, but actually no. It's not. It's just from our limited perspective, but from the perspective of our going back home, back to Godhead, there is no harm can be done to us. No harm can be done. We're a spirit soul. Basic teachings of Bhagavad Gita. We cannot be cut, we cannot be killed. The soul is eternal. And so Krishna, because he wants us to go back home, back to Godhead as soon as possible, just like with the soul of Chitraketu, or the soul of Dvidvida, sometimes things are arranged in such a way that we cannot understand, so that we can go back as soon as possible. And it appears to us like this is a very, very inauspicious happening to us. But from Krishna's point of view, there can be nothing inauspicious. If we have unflinching faith in Sri Guru and in Krishna, if we have that, how anything inauspicious can happen? Because everything will be coming to us by the grace of Sri Guru and Krishna, who are the embodiments of auspiciousness. So it's not possible. So somehow or other, when everything is coming, something is coming, and we're saying, oh, this is negative, this is inauspicious, we have to be able to step back and somehow adjust something here. It's not the environment. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj is so expert in explaining this. So expert in explaining this. There is something here. Just like one time in a class in Mathura, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he was saying, if we somehow get hurt, feel hurt while we're practicing bhakti, it means we are practicing improperly. Now that changed my life when I started to really realize that. I started to try and practice that and really take it to heart. That's very deep. Because, he hurt me by saying this, blah, blah, blah. Or he hurt, it hurt me so much. It means our material attachments on some level, some material attachment. Because if we're not expecting respect, this is just a level of nishta, trinadapi sunichena, tarodapi suisa, amanina, manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. We don't expect any respect. We're only giving respect. And then we can chant Hare Krishna. But if we're expecting respect, and we get hurt when people don't respect us or disrespect us, we're not practicing properly. Doesn't mean that we should do that or that they should do that, but still for our own bhakti. Just like, let's say, I won't get into the most controversial one, but something terrible happens to someone. Let's say someone gets murdered. A devotee gets murdered. No, I'll use another example. Murdered. There is one devotee, I won't mention who, his wife, he caught his wife having a relationship with his best friend, so he killed his best friend. He's in jail for life somewhere in America. Now, why did this all happen? It's all happening due to the mercy. He has a pure devotee guru. Somehow it's to help him go back home, back to Godhead as soon as possible. But it's not that we condone killing. We don't. And that's why it's good that he went to jail and he's going to get punished. Like this. We don't, just because, everything is auspicious, people can go out and rape the children or rape ladies or kill this. No. We don't condone violence and committing sinful activities. We don't. And we take care of them. That's why the law and order is there, to punish those that do not act properly. And that punishment is the mercy of the Lord. But we also understand that why did it come? If I got killed, I must have killed somebody in my past life. If I get raped, I must have raped somebody in my past life. Like this, you see. This is very, very difficult one for us to accept sometimes. Because we don't really, really deeply have faith and believe in the eternal nature of the soul, reincarnation, transmigration of the soul, that we've had many, many lives. We really only see this lifetime. This is it. It's like the Christian idea. You got one life, you're either going to go to hell or heaven. That's it, boss. We're very much like that, actually. We don't accept that we've done so many things in our past lives. So many offenses, so many impious activities, so many pious activities. We've done everything, been everything. So anything coming to us, we certainly deserve. You see? That's when one can finally accept that, which is the teachings of we've talked about this before, our Adi Guru, Lord Brahma, that's his prayers in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He explains, Tatena kampam shamano. We have to accept everything coming to us as our own past dealings, as a reaction for that. And we go on serving with love and affection, with our body, mind, words. Then we will attain Bhagavan, we'll attain prema. Only when we can understand how insignificant we are, how lowly and fallen we have been, will we actually be able to enter the path of what? Bhajan, be qualified for bhakti. If we don't accept that, we're not qualified for bhakti, we're not qualified for bhajan. We have not accepted one of the 4 intrinsic characteristics of bhakti. What is that? Truth. The truth of the matter is, we're a small, insignificant spirit soul. We've been here since time immemorial, our spirit soul with many unlimited different material bodies, the same mind carrying all the garbage with us and all the good stuff. That is the absolute truth. We don't remember this much. We just think, oh, yes, this is me. And yeah, I'm really the best of everything. People just haven't, I'm the most beautiful, you haven't looked at me from the right angle. I'm the most intelligent, you haven't just really heard, you know. That false ego we all have. I never have done anything bad. I'm Susie Two Good Shoes, you know. I've never done anything, you know. This is a false ego in the material world. I'm so wonderful. Everyone should bow at my feet, right? Give me all respect. Yes, no. So 4 intrinsic qualities of bhakti. Truth. Another one is compassion and forgiveness for ourselves and for others, because we're very fallen. And what's the other one? Humility. So we have to become very humble. Look at the songs of our Acharya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What he says about himself. I am so fallen. I am so worthless. I've done everything. There's that one song, I've criticized everybody. I forget how it goes. What's the name of that one? I'm not so good at remembering things. But anyhow, I have done everything. Please, I'm approaching you, Bhagavan. I'm approaching you, please. Please, you are my only shelter. For those who have done everything, who have fallen, you are the only shelter. And you see, isn't that how Vritasura is praying? No matter where I go and whatever species I have to go due to my activities, don't let me forget you. Let me have the association of your devotees. Let me never have to associate with those that are, in Maya. Please let me glorify you. This should be our heartfelt prayer and accepting reality as it is. And then as Krishna wants, he will bring us back to him as quick as possible. But he will take some quicker and some a little bit longer. There's the example of, isn't it Hanuman? He had to stay in the material world after Ram and Sita and everyone left. Isn't he still here or something like that? He's still here, trying to help the conditioned souls. And I think, wasn't it, it was either Uddhava or Vidura also had to stay. Maybe both of them. They had to stay after the pastime. What to speak of the parrot of Radharani, who became Sukadeva Goswami, had to stay after the pastimes. Whatever we're asked to do, this is prema. This is love and affection. And even if we have to take the part of, let's say, Maharaj Cricket and do something as humiliating as put a snake around the neck of a sage. What to speak of Lord Shiva himself, who had to become Sankaracharya and preach Mayavad. Pure devotees will do anything for their sweet Lord. And they will say everything as the mercy of their sweet Lord. When, oh when will we come to that platform? My sweet Lord. My sweet Lord. Whatever you're my sweet Lord. I love you no matter what. Wasn't that Asli Shiva Padaratam Pinasamam? Whether you trample me down, you embrace me, this is Radharani. You are my Nath. You are my Nath. And you're a Lampad, you're a Debaji, you're this, sometimes you drive me crazy, but still I love you. And even if you're driving me crazy, makes you happy, that's my highest happiness. If making me miserable makes you happy, well, that's my highest happiness. That is love. Meaning that even if this is Prem Samput, even if there's some reason that the Prem should come down, it will never come down. That's Prem. It cannot come down. Right? Anyhow, we should stop here. Are there any comments or questions? Okay. We will now have kirtan.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe.
Jaya Giri Raja, Jaya Govardhana,
Jaya Giri Raja Jaya Govardhana, Giri Raja Jaya Govardhana. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Vancha Kalpachabhisha, Kripa Sindhu Vivita, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Thank you all. Jai Haribo.